This session is for reviewing a demo on the BAASS Time product that I will begin now for you. So if anyone has just joined in, my name is Bharti Misuria. I'm the practice lead for management consulting and development at BAASS. Today has been the track for how to maximize the Sage 300 solution, and we are going through our addition or add-on products for Sage 300. This afternoon, I'm going to talk about BAASS Time, which is a product that we have created to help our clients that are using Canadian or US payroll for making their lives easier to prepare the time cards. So BAASS Time, in a nutshell, helps our clients do basic employee scheduling. If you have multiple work locations where you need to schedule your employees to come in at certain times, then you're able to do that with BAASS Time, and you're also able to see what was their scheduled time and what time they actually reported to their work location. So BAASS Time tracks both the scheduled time and actual work time for the employee. It's fully integrated to Sage 300 Canadian payroll and US payroll as well. So when you're scheduling, you're in a scheduling sheet. When you're looking up the employees, it actually pulls employees from Sage in real-time mode. So with BAASS Time, what we do is we help you or help our clients pull in schedule time and the actual work time, and then we help them calculate different earning codes. So for example, you have two facilities where employees are working, and if you have different rates of pay for each, one is a production area and one is an office area, then you're able to tie their work hours to the location and apply the appropriate rate. If you're calculating your overtime based on shifts, for example, then you're able to use BAASS Time to apply those overtime rules and do calculations before you create your time cards. If you have union dues, then you're able to calculate based on different complex criteria such as province, area of work, type of duty, and so forth. If you have the policy of paying statutory holiday pay, we are also able to calculate that by province. So in the end, what we help you do is eliminate all those manual calculations before you get to your time cards. We are also able to build in employee-specific rules. So we all know a norm is excellent, but when you have the exceptions, the exceptions are the killer for your time and energy. So if you have, for whatever reason, any employee-specific rules to say, you know what, if employee X works this shift, then they get a different pay rate, and that applies to any overtime or union due calculations or any other, we are able to support that with BAASS Time. So in a nutshell, BAASS Time helps you read information either from external sources about your employee schedules or when they reported to work in terms of actual time, or you're able to track that within our application, and then we help you do all the calculations automatically and create time cards. So essentially, in a nutshell, we're simplifying and making your work simpler to create time cards from raw data that you may be tracking for your employees. Before I actually show you a demo, I would like to share a client story here where we've used our BAASS Time product. So we have a client that needed to calculate 1,200 time card. They have 1,200 employees and they have weekly payroll. So every week the payroll team had to sit down and calculate time cards. Not only that, they were in a retail setting, so you can imagine the type of overtime calculations, and they are US based, so they had both local as well as state taxes applicable for different states. And they had to manage the employees' schedule because they were a retail firm, and they wanted to make sure that they were scheduling their employees and tracking what their actual time was. So we helped them with BAASS Time to do scheduling, and then have the visibility before they actually do the payroll to say, this was the scheduled time, and they use an external system for scheduling, but they use the BAASS Time to read that schedule and compare to what the employee actually worked, so that they're able to validate and create time cards automatically in Sage on weekly basis. So the time saving on this was massive, as you can imagine, preparing weekly time cards for 1,200 employees, because all they do now is bring the information electronically, and I'll walk you through the demo of it, and just basically do some quick exceptions checks before they can upload their time cards in Sage. So with that introduction, I will actually jump straight into our BAASS Time product. So what I've done is I've logged in as an admin user so that I have full access. So what I'm able to do is, obviously I can define my users and I give them the permissions as to what they can do in BAASS Time. I'm also able to specify custom pay periods. So depending on whether you are weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, and so forth, you're able to do the dates, because all the logic in terms of your time card generation will be derived from here. So you have less clicks to make as you create your time cards. We also let you set up break time. So when we are calculating overtime and so forth, we are able to apply the break times into the calculation accordingly. What we have, and this is quite a strong feature of this application, is that we either let you use BAASS Time to schedule your employees here, or if you're using an external system, you're more than welcome to do that, and we will simply bring that information into BAASS Time. And what this is an example of saying, this is the information I need for my schedule, and I'm going to bring it from an external source. So I have defined my external source to be an Excel file, and I have mapped my fields depending on what I have in my Excel file. So we can work with any type of file. As long as you have a scheduling system, you provide us the file, we'll map it here, and we'll bring your employee schedules into BAASS Time. Similarly, if you're using any external system for tracking your actual time, then we are able to support the field mapping. In this example, I'm showing you in my configuration, I have pipe separated, comma separated Excel, but we can work with SQL, we can work with other delimiters as well, and we can do the field mapping so that we can bring the actual time your employees worked from an external system into BAASS Time. So once you've configured your users, your pay periods, where you're going to get your scheduled information and where you're going to get your actual time, you're now ready to work with your employee schedules and start calculating your time cards. So I'll show you this first feature where we have a screen where you can specify what is your employee schedule. So I've just used a few examples here. I've put in some employees and I have scheduled their time. So I have employee 1050, John Rees, this is job code. This is my schedule. I'm scheduling him from 10 to 12 on Monday and so forth. What I'm able to do is I just pressed F5 here, and the list of employees I see is real time from Sage. So if somebody enters a new employee in Sage, whoever is doing the scheduling, they will see a new employee right away without having to sync anything or run any processes. It's a real-time integration with Sage 300. So once I have my schedule, and like I said, I can bring this, I can manually enter this schedule, or I can bring this from an external system, whatever system you may be using for your scheduling. That's my first step. The second step then is, now that I've scheduled my employees, I would say, okay, I've scheduled them now. They actually did some work, and I am able to go and either enter the actual time or bring in from a file. I'll explain what this lock means in a second. So before this demo, I set up some data and I brought the employee's actual time. In this window here, I see some reds here. And what that means is I'm going to go ahead and check this box to say show scheduled. So now what I'm able to see is on Monday, this employee was scheduled from 10 to 12, and they actually did work 10 to 12. So anything that's gray was scheduled, anything that's a white background is actual work. As I scroll towards my right, the reds are basically deviations from their scheduled time. So this employee was scheduled from 10 to 14 hours. However, they came in at 11 o'clock. And likewise here, they did not leave until 1600. The reason we do this is we have an approval process. So if the supervisor wanted to go in and say, well, I only scheduled you for whatever reason until 1700, I'm only going to pay you for that many hours, they are able to override it. I'm not, so just an additional step if it was required. However, if you decide that, no, I'm just going to pay on actual time, then that approval step will not be necessary. The reason I have this locked is because I've brought up the actual time worked from the month of May, and once the supervisor reviews, they are able to lock it so that nobody else can make changes to the actual time. Once it's locked, this information is then uploaded to Sage as time cards so that we don't let any other users make changes, and make sure that the audit trail remains as to what time was entered and what was paid. So as part of the workflow, you would either enter your schedule time or import from your external system. If you are using scheduling system, you would then either import or enter your actual time. And then the process of saying, yes, I have reviewed, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this, approve. The supervisor does that for each pay period. And then I'm going to go ahead and upload to Sage. So what I want to show you here is when you are about to upload to Sage, you will see the employees. In this case, I have John Rees for 2 pay periods. So I had imported 2 files, one for the month of May, it's for the week of May 8th, and the second week of 15th, based on the pay period dates. And it's showing me the amount of actual hours that I am going to use as part of my payroll calculation. So it's showing me my schedule or my actual time. When I configured BAASS Time for my organization, I had said that my work days are from Monday to Sunday. But if for whatever reason your work days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you have Monday, Fridays off, you're able to configure that with BAASS Time. So what it's showing me here is simply total hours that the system is going to consider for your payroll time cards. Now, when I'm ready to hit the upload button, I'll just make this smaller so you can actually see the upload button to Sage. This is where all the business rules are applied. And what I mean by that is it's going to take John Rees's hours. So he worked 44 hours. If you had BAASS Time configured to calculate overtime, for example, on daily basis, and your standard work hours was 7.5 hours per day, then it would calculate overtime for Monday, Tuesday, and make sure that before the time card was uploaded, the 44 hours was properly split into regular hours and overtime hours. So it does those calculations prior to you sending this information to Sage. Another example is if you had business rule set up for not daily calculations, but maybe weekly, then it'll do so on 44 hours. And in the configuration, you'll specify what are your normal weekly hours. If it's 40, then it'll calculate 4 hours as your overtime. if you had your union dues calculation specified, let's say by province, then depending on the profile of REIS, it'll calculate and make sure that the amounts are updated accordingly. So again, this is just a window showing you what are the different pay periods that you are using, what are the different hours. However, all the business rules will be applied before the time cards are uploaded into Sage. I'm also able to, I won't go into reporting because we don't have too much time, but you are able to look at your pre-upload report to say what will my time cards look like before I go ahead and send it. So I go ahead and click upload to send the data to Sage. And now I'm going to go into Sage time cards. And I'm just going to bring SIS because that's the time card we used for all the BAASS time cards. And I had 4 employees. I just have it separated with this lines. So I had 4 employees, 1,050, 100, 200, and 201. And if I go into Sage, I have those 4 employees. And if I drill down into the time card, you will see that the hours correspond to what I have. If there are any other earning codes that will apply based on your business rules, it'll insert them. And there you have it. So again, just to summarize, you're able to track your schedule time if you wanted to. You're able to then import or enter your actual time. You're able to generate different reports to see what the time cards will look like, any other special overtimes or earnings before the time cards are created. You could enable your approval process by manager if you wanted to, or by payroll manager if it was one person approving it. And then finally you upload to Sage and you have your time cards in your Sage system. The last point I want to make is that once you have your time cards in Sage, the process is repeatable. So if for whatever reason you have your time cards in Sage and you say, oh, I made a mistake, I had forgotten to amend one of the business rules, then you don't have to delete the time cards manually. You're able to go to BAASS Time and you're able to simply go back and say, I want to unlock for the period such and such, go ahead and unlock. And you are able to repeat the process flow to say upload again, generate the pre-upload report, make sure everything's correct, go ahead and upload. And what it'll do, it's not rocket science, but basically it'll delete anything, all the time cards with SIS and recreate your time cards. So the process is repeatable. So that in a nutshell is our BAASS Time product. At this time, I'll open up for any questions.
I do have some questions here. The first one I have is the application limited to importing Excel type files only?
No, so BAASS Time supports comma separated, file delimited. So any delimiter, comma, pipe, or we can read the data from SQL as well.
Is it necessary to import files?
So right now you are able to either enter your scheduled and actual time manually, or you're able to import. The third option we have is if you have a file, we can read the file overnight automatically without you having to import and just insert them into BAASS Time for you. And then you still have the process of validating them, verifying them before you hit the button to upload into Sage.
I've noticed that you validate your import file every time. Is this necessary?
So that's a great question. Yes, that's important because we want to make sure that when we create the time cards or any other data in Sage, that the data has its integrity protected. And what I mean by that is by validating, we check the contents of the file and we make sure that the employee is active, the employee is not terminated, for example, that the earning codes that are in the file are all valid. Otherwise, you tend to have situation where you're trying to upload a time card, but for whatever reason, the employee may not have on his profile the correct earning codes associated. So you would run into some errors and so forth. So by validating, we will generate a report and say, all your 50 employees looks absolutely fine. You go ahead and import. Or it'll say, please check line number 10 and 15 because the earning codes that you have associated to your employee are not set up correctly in Sage. So it's a good report to correct all of your errors before you do the actual upload.
Can I manage my employees with BAASS Time?
So the answer to that would be no. You would use BAASS Time to manage your employees' schedules and hours of work. To manage your employees, I mean, you definitely can use your Sage 300 because it does have all of the information. In addition to that, if you're looking for HR type functions such as managing your hire cycle and things like that, we also, Sage has an add-on product for that. So we'll make a note for whoever has asked this question so we can follow up with some additional information.
And the last question I have here is, what other kind of reports can be done with the application?
So we have a few reports. We have a report that shows your schedule time, your actual time, and then the variance to say what are the deviations. We have a report that shows what your time cards will look like when you hit Sage. And then we have the product that we demonstrated earlier. It's called the BAASS Web Reports. We have connected BAASS Web Reports to BAASS Time, and you can pretty much generate any type of reports that you want because all of the information that you see in BAASS Time will be available in our BAASS Web Reports as well.
Perfect. That does look like that's all the questions for this session. But thank you, Bharti, for presenting. We'll take another break and rejoin at 3:20 for the last session, BAASS AR attachments.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of the afternoon.